Right, Wes. The franchise leg, the start of it, which is obviously still got the Lions game, is over. We're moving into Test week. But last night, 50 points to 19, 24-0 at half time. So
wasn't looking good. Half time.
No, it wasn't looking good.
No.
And frustrating because the Bulls had a disallowed try. Harno Liebenberg robbed of a chip, a grabber head and chase down.
Amazing.
I mean, it would have been the slowest chase down, between him and Fabian Holland. I mean, when we talk about you want to put I'm not saying that they're regular because they're incredible athletes, but how we talk about wanting to put a reference point in the Olympics.
Yes, just to see.
It felt a bit like that. You're just two big forwards, slow-mo, desperately trying to get back there. Fabian Holland losing his footing, Liebenberg getting there, and all for that to be chalked off. Heartbreaking.
No, it's tough. The boys put in the effort, that sprint, can you imagine? And then for it to be nothing, was disappointing.
Yeah, because forwards are very energy efficient.
I was going to say careful now.
They're energy efficient. If I don't have to run, I'm not going to run. That's why if you look at the whole France game plan a few years ago when they were busy kicking over and Nuno Antonio basically just parked a squat and just, you guys let me know when you need me to scrum, otherwise you guys carry on.
Work smart, not hard, Steve.
Literally. And that's what I'm trying to say, the forwards are smart people. Second half, however, much, much better. I think the score in the end, 26-19 in terms of the second half score. Bulls throwing a few punches, a couple of soft tries being conceded. Before we start talking about the All Blacks, Bulls players who stood out last night for you?
Jeez. I think it was tough because, the coach was talking about it being pre-season and only a 3-week break and what. So there were... I don't know if you see them as excuses or reasons, it's depending on which side of the fence you fall on.
And it's annoying because we've known about, obviously everybody's saying we've known about the tour, but the reality is the rugby calendar is horrendously full. Yeah. And the Bulls, and I did enjoy Jan Ackerman because they basically said, the Sharks are a similar boat. He says, well, I'm not sure why their preseason was so short, seeing as they didn't make the playoffs. I was like, a little bit of spice in there, because they did finish their rugby basically end of May, but the Bulls did go all the way to the URC finals. So by the time you have 3 weeks off and then get back into camp, and you have to give these players 5 weeks off a year.
Sure.
And so to find that window, when you don't know, if you didn't have this, it becomes a bit easier because that 5 weeks window, you'd probably be getting back into camp beginning of August. You've got a full month and then basically a full September. So, it's not excuses, but I think it's reality of where we are. Yeah. But it's definitely a Bull side that aren't anywhere near in their season compared to the All Blacks who've had a full Super Rugby but have not gone on that break. Yeah. They've just gone from straight there into camp, much like the Box. Yeah. At the end of the day.
And 2 franchise games before, you can say about the changes because there were quite a few changes this week, right, against the Bulls from the team that played the Sharks. Right? Quite a mix up there.
Yeah, I think for them, the All Blacks are basically got their touring team in inverted commas and kind of a bit of their test side. So a bit of a different team, probably more their touring team last night. And a lot of New Zealand fans, not all, because I'm getting a bit of heat, but some of them were sort of saying we were all very confident about this Bulls side. And I'll still maintain
some more than others, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, I still maintain it was a reasonable Bulls side. I think the main thing last night is we saw that Test match rugby is a different level.
Agreed.
And I think that you look at Moscow-Sear's performance, he's got 30-odd tests. Let's not go to Billy LaRue's performance, not his greatest game. But Marcel showed that there are the levels. And that's the thing, the biggest problem is that if you had 50 Marcel Concert type performances yesterday, or Jean-Louis Rudolph, or Jean Els when he came out, I thought was also very impressive. It becomes a far more competitive game, but there is also a level above it. But that's also the great thing about this tour, because the JF Van Heerden, I think he's got Springbok written all over him. I thought, shame, he missed a tackle which conceded a try, but I thought Kaleko Letabile, when he came on, looked bright. He was happy to run into contact and have some good moments. So it's not great from a results point of view, but there was a lot of learnings, and I still think the experience some of these young players are going to get, because there was definitely a step up from, I'm not even going to Currie Cup, even URC level.
No, 100%, and that I remember, again, and my experience is so limited compared to what these guys will go, but I remember that step from a high school to then a competitive university professional setup, like a competitive, and this again in the States, asterisks there, sorry boys out there, but it was still a step up from high school to university, and then within the university set up to then the All-American side, so that's like the national junior USA side, and then we scrimmaged against the USA men's, and it was just the step and step and step, and that's all within a, a young rugby nation. I can only imagine the steps from established nations like South Africa and New Zealand, and there's just that level and it's that intensity, I think, which is played, and that I think we saw last night, as you said.
Yeah, and the All Blacks really getting into their full flow, which is, I mean, some of the
Offloads.
almost tries as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the offload game seems to be very back. People are now getting a bit worried about the box, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But 142 points to 40 points in the South African franchise, not really the results you would have liked to have seen. Yeah, I think it's frustrating to have not had a bit of a better showing. I think the Stormers obviously did put in a reasonable performance, but it wasn't exactly where we wanted it to be. But now we're moving into Test week. Now all that's been put out, and I think again, not all, but a lot of New Zealand fans have also been saying on some of the comments that they're all very aware that the Boks are a different beast.
Yeah.
And I think what people, and it's a weird, interesting sort of psychological thing, but Boks in a Boks shirt as well.
Yeah.
Within whether it's the system, whether it's the occasion, whether it's the Rassie pre-match talk, whether it's being scared of Don Human,
all the above.
everything goes into that, and they do. I mean, that's Jim Hamilton said that he's watched Bowen Fenter a lot for Edinburgh, and he said that game he had against Scotland, he said he's just never seen him in that kind of thing. So it is a lift above.
No, definitely.
So,
it's like an emergent property, right? Greater than the
correct.
sum of its parts.
Yeah. So now we're going into Test week. We've got so much to talk about. Obviously, by the time this comes out, with Rassie, the team will likely have been announced. But Sidi Khaleesi, obviously, injury question mark. Deon Free, 39 years old. Could become the oldest Springbok if he plays.
Exciting.
A lot of players left back in camp. The main thing is, do we think that this 3 All Blacks performances will have tweaked anything within the Bok camp? And do you think Rassie's watched anything and said, oh, maybe I need to go this direction? Or do you think we're pretty much, the plan is still a plan?
Jeez, it's my worst thing to try and predict what Rassie Erasmus is thinking.
Yeah, well,
I think for anyone.
Yeah,
like
no.
to get into that mind. I think more or less, I don't think the All Blacks have shown us anything that we weren't expecting to see from them. And especially under Dave Rennie, we've seen they're looking like a much stronger All Black side, right, compared to under Razor. So I think there will be, if anything, more respect and the need for the guys to stick to the system more. We know the system works. We've won 2 World Cups with it. We've got really a good winning success record. So no, I don't think anything would have changed massively. Player selection, again, Argentina, we spoke about some of the players that shone and some of those that didn't, so potentially some combinations there, which I suppose can influence kind of our strategy. I do like the thought that we're kind of playing a bit of mind games with actually, we saw how Argentina were able to diffuse the high game a little bit, but maybe that's not going to be the game. Was it, I think one of the World Cup, I think it was the most recent World Cup, was it the semi or the quarter against England, right, where Faf was just bombing kicks in the warm-up, right? Like huge.
2019, they sent them out.
Yes.
It was the final. They sent them out early.
That's it, and just kicks, and then we just almost didn't kick the whole
Yeah.
game. So is there a bit of that happening again, which could be exciting? But no, I think. What are your thoughts on this game plan? Do you think New Zealand's shown us anything where we would have to adapt, or?
I mean, I think that in many ways, again, we know characteristically the All Blacks are a fast-paced side. The handling's good. I think that they've got some really, really nice players coming through. I think what I've been very impressed with is I always talk about the fact that some of your two most important positions are your 2 locks, and they lost Brodie Retallick and they lost Sam Whitelock, and there's no Scott Barrett. Yes. So they've lost 3 massive locks in the last couple of years. Obviously, Scott Barrett's just injured at the moment, but I've been very impressed with the stock of locks coming through. I mean, Patrick Tupelotta, a great player, but Fabian Holland's a good player. Josh Lord, I think, is a very good player. So I think I've been impressed with the physical players that they're starting to bring. I mean, Anton Sejner, the German, of all nations coming through. So I think that we're seeing the slickness of the hands, but I don't think we must underappreciate that they're starting to bring a physicality back to them. I mean, Tava Nawe looks like an absolute shit brick house to bring down. Asafa Amur, there's some very large players in this. So I don't want to just dive into the whole, they're just amazing hand stuff like that. They are some big boys. And I think the clashes we're going to see are going to be seismic.
No, huge. But I think it's because watching that Bulls game, we saw the slick hands coming from the big men, right? I think it was the number 4, I forget the name, but it's beautiful out the back, and then allowing, was it Codie Taylor in for a second try? Everyone looked like they wanted to offload, right? When they went to ground, they were looking to that offload. And so it is that dual threat now of the big physical bruising tackles paired with the silky smooth offloads and
but isn't that just the modern game at the moment? I mean, we are seeing I mean, I was at the captain's run, and I mean, the All Blacks players, some of the forwards are receiving a kick and then just kicking it back. And I watched, I think it was actually one of the locks, and he just casually just pinged it straight back to the flower, like into his hands. And I was like, that's quite an underappreciated bit of skill that we've just seen there. But I mean, even Jean-Louis Rudolph yesterday chipping ahead and chasing himself. But I think the forwards these days are very underappreciated in terms of the skill set they possess. I mean, when Rassie Erasmus was asked what he saw in Asnat in Clavicania, I'll never forget it. The first thing he said, yeah, we think he's got really good touch. And I was like, to describe a tight head as someone who's got good touch was so, especially in a Bok context, especially if anyone's seen the size of Asnat, but he does. He's incredible hands and feel for the game. I think that's also an interesting part. It's the intelligence as well. And that's where Jean-Louis Rudolph has become such an important player. He just reads the game so well.
No, that's key. If you can almost be 3 plays ahead of what's happening or know where you need to be in 3 plays and get there, kind of front load your work.
Even Etzebeth, I think he's underappreciated. Obviously, he's the enforcer and this. But in the last 2 years, look at his work. He's done it on charging down. His work on kick retention.
Yeah.
You know,
the ball's out. He's always at the more watching.
Yes, references out. Yeah, exactly. So you know, it's so minimalistic to speak about. Oh, he's big, ruling big. But no, it's so much more than that. I mean, Archie Snyman led the way with the offloads. I mean, he brought Sonny Bill Williams' skill set into a 7-foot, 125 kg frame.
Viking. No, and I think it's because the game has gotten more competitive, the margins have gotten smaller. So, you know, to differentiate yourself as a player individually from your peers within your country and then, you know, internationally against other nations, you have to, the player is evolving, you know, and I know we've not spoken about him since the English were here, but Henry Pollock, like if you look at that kind of a player, you know, the hybrid players, but actually he is a forward, right? But he's got the skills, you know,
and the pace as well.
Pace. So to really kind of have that toolkit, that Swiss Army knife or the Leatherman, I think sets you apart for selectors.
Look at Zach Walton.
Yeah, well,
I mean, again, core thing is, can you scrum? And that's why I was speaking to my mate who is a tight head and played at a reasonably high level, and coach, and there's a lot of coaching. He said he's not entirely sure whether he'll stay a tight head, but again, skill set, the ball carrying, he's got a bit of a point of difference. Same as Jan-Hendrik Wessels. There's a reason why Rassie, even when the Bulls weren't picking him, said there's a player here because he saw long term that things are changing. Before we get into the next segment, I just want to ask a bit of a contentious point last night. Codie Taylor's fake tap, the dummy tap.
Nonsense.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. They're not happy with, and legally, checked it, legally it's all right. Do we think this might become a law clarification from World Rugby?
I hope it does. I mean, I think, like, for example, nines are no longer allowed to fake out the back of the ruck, right? Because it gets the players offside, the defenders, and then they're offside and they get the penalty. So that's, I hate the phrase in the spirit of the game, but you know what I mean? Look, fair play, because to be honest, I'm trying to think if it was us doing it and there was no legal rules against it. We'd be like, oh, well, it's within the rules and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not mad at Codie Taylor for doing it. I don't even know if it was intentional. Maybe it was, if it was very smart play.
Yeah, I mean, he did dust them.
Yeah, no.
I mean, Paul Jean Els was taking a step back when Codie Taylor was here and you're going, oh, hang on, it's too late now.
So maybe they've spotted something, because again, like, just, we need to be fair. If this was, you know, something the Springboks had done, we would have been like, oh, Rassie's brilliant, he's found this here. So again, fair play. But I do think if we want there to be competition, fair competition from a tap to your defence, that sort of contact,
the hooker
can't balk, then like there's basically no dummies in rugby except when you've got the ball in live play and you're trying to sell someone with your skill. So yeah, I think it should be clarified.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting one because it was. I mean, as I said, it was very well done if that was the plan, and it did completely give them no chance of the contest. And that, I think, will be an interesting discussion, because at the end of the day, that always is the reason behind it. Does it take away from the contest? Does it? And I think that last night, and now if that's an adaptation, inverted commas, and the Boks would have loved the fact that it did happen, because now it's okay. Would watch for the fake tap, because that might happen. Watch that until that ball moves. It's the same thing as the ball having to leave the hands. For example, if you drop it onto your foot, you have to drop it. You can't just and off you go.
So then I wonder, the question about it being intentional, because we probably would have, again, if it had been intentional, if it was a Rassie thing, I wonder if he would have saved that for that first test, right? Rassie's often pulled out tricks like against a proper opposition, not in the warm-up games. So that's why I kind of think, was it intentional? Or were they better off holding that against the box and squeezing it out when that opportunity was there?
Have they shown their hand to first time? Has
Yeah.
Dave Rennie maybe showed his hand where he shouldn't have?
That's it. And I think potentially, if it was intentional, if it was an accident, they maybe
Poor
clued on
Codie
to
Taylor's
something.
in the sheds at the moment getting absolutely berated about, what are you idiot? That was supposed to be for the first test.
There
You've
we
just
go.
given it all away.
He said, "Oh, but they were so big, I thought they were the box."
Well, there it is. Right, let's move on to the next section, which is the maul.